Okay, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to continue the discussion about something I call the Incarnation, that's an A, agreement. Now, it's one of those challenging discussions because we don't have the agreements. And so we have to kind of stretch our imagination and work our intuition a little bit. But I know you guys are up to it. About that Incarnation agreement. Once again, we're using the latest in special effects, digital effects, so that you guys can see how smart and wonderful this presentation is. This is handmade. This is what we used to call handmade special effects. So there is something what I call, and some people call, I guess they call it the soul contract. Soul contract. Like that, or agreement. Again, I don't like to think, I don't like to dwell on what it is, because some person's going to come up with a very technical word. You know what it is? It's an incarnation negotiated terms and conditions. Like we can't get, most of the time we get wrapped up on the little details. Just like, when I talk about the aliens, I don't talk about the name of the specific race, because that's where we get caught up. So there is an agreement, and we're going to get into some specifics. There's an agreement, so that there will be terms, right? There will be conditions. But there will be some other things in here that are important, that a lot of people call it the mission, and I've called it the mission. But maybe that's a little too complicated, the mission, because this is more like stuff that you promise to do. Okay, these are things you promise to do when you take the body of a mortal being. And just so you know, not everybody is happy here. My focus is that, I believe that the more we understand something, the more we have that knowledge, that information, the more we internalize, and that something in here starts to work better. And so that my idea is that knowledge funnels our ascension, our growth, our spiritual growth, and that's what makes us happy. No, and this is piece of knowledge. Even we don't fully understand it, even we don't have all the facts, and I don't have a sample agreement, but people do know these things. Some people can recite exactly what they're supposed to do. Now, what we're up against, my battle is, what we're up against is always there's this counter, right? There's this counter that it blocks, right? Or it throws out knowledge. It blocks knowledge. It demands facts. So when you come to things like this, you say, well, what are the facts? What are the facts? And then you don't have the facts, and then people reject that. They reject that, right? And then they go get vaccinated. because there's facts. Fact is, it works 100%. I'm going to get vaccinated. Whereas this is, well, this is something else. I'm going to reject it. Now, hopefully, intuition comes into play, and we can actually explore this in a meaningful way, because now we're getting into the metaphysics, mystical knowledge, right? Esoteric knowledge. But it is fundamentally important, okay? Your promise. So this is before you incarnate. So what is that? Let's look at that a little bit. What does that mean? Incarnate. Now, I'm going to try to add a little detail to it, because to me, I go to the DNA, because this is who we are, right? This is who we are, our DNA. Our DNA is our spirit, is our software. So science has said, DNA is the software of life, okay? Science. And what science did was, there was a geneticist who took a book, okay? They took a book and he put it in a computer, so it's digitized, right? And in digital form, the code is ones and zeros, right? This is the digital code. And then what he did was he used what you would call like a biological converter. So he took the ones and zeros and converted it into AGCT, which is DNA. Because DNA can do many things, but DNA can store data. This is a new thing they're developing. So he took many thousands of copies of this book, converted it, the ones and zeros, right, which is 2-digit, into 4-digit. Now, why am I talking about DNA and software, and what's it got to do with incarnation? That's the question you're asking me, right? Because if you look at life, we have DNA. We all are made up of DNA. And it's very advanced, and it's a software, which is a program. Now, we also know that we incarnate, right? Our soul, you call our soul, incarnates into the body. This is a well-established fact. We have a soul, you have a soul, and you have DNA, right? We can agree on those two pieces. So what if the soul is another word for DNA, and what if DNA is another word for soul? So we're talking about a soul program, and we're talking about DNA program, which is software, right? So what if, here's the what if. What if DNA, is equal to soul, spirit? Remember, DNA is very advanced. We still don't understand it. And we know it's a software of life. We know you can program DNA. and it replicates, and it grows, and it regenerates, and it's made up of all these genes, which I talk about is part of your ascension, is part of your activation, right? We're not getting into this specific stuff today, but I want to make sure we understand that if the soul is a program and DNA is 4-digit code, right? 4-digit code. What if we said that the soul is 2-digit, right? What if I said that on a higher dimension, right? A heavenly dimension, a higher dimension, the soul program exists as a 2-digit code. In other words, it exists as ones and zeros, right? I think normally written that way, ones and zeros. So what if that this digital soul, but we know that soul, by my definition, is DNA, and DNA is soul. So what if this digital soul or digital DNA converts into its biological DNA, right? So what if this we can call, again, we always use these fancy terms, but what if that's incarnation? It's really a biological conversion, right? From a digital reality to a biological, physical reality. Okay. So that's enough. We're going to cover that. But what we know here is that you can contain data and information. And when you're born, you have an identity, you get a name, you have goals in life, right? You try to figure out who you are, right? Your likes, dislikes, etc. So you have data. That's data. When you're growing, you're accumulating data. Who am I? But you're really, my view is you already know who you are. And this process of biological conversion, you forget, right? You forget. And then you live your life trying to figure out who you are. Hopefully by the end of it, you figure out who you are, and then you go back. Life always looks a lot more complicated than it is. So there is this agreement, okay? Now, before I get into the details, I want to talk about car repair. Just I think we can all relate to it. How do you like my little car here? It's nice, eh? Look at that beast. And there's a car. Let's say you break something breaks in the car. You go to the mechanic. You go to the dealer, right? You go to the dealer. Let's call it the dealer. Now, this is going to relate to this incarnation contract because we're going to see everything is connected. There's a mechanic and there's a parts. So part says, I need a muffler, I need a window, Yeah, I need a steering wheel. And I need a tie rod. Okay? Let's say that I need all these things. And I need some pads, brake pads. And the clips. So the mechanic says, okay, well, once I get this, I can start fixing your car. Now, let's say they get the muffler. Okay, fix the muffler. Let's get the steering wheel. Okay, we put this new steering wheel in. But we're all out of tie rods. We got an order from the manufacturer. And there's the window shortage, so there's a delay. And the pads will be here next week. So what happens to the car? Can you drive the car, right? Can you drive car if parts not ready or late? I'm using a very simple demonstration, and I'm going to show you with the agreement why it's important. Okay? Because what we're going to see is there's an agreement. I have an agreement. You have an agreement. Your friend has an agreement. Your family has an agreement. There's 7 billion people here. They got 7 billion agreements. That's a lot of agreements, right? Now, but everything's interrelated because we don't live alone. We live with people. So let's say that something I have to do here, I need a window, let's say, right? I need to do something here in my mission. I need a window. In other words, I need somebody to help me. I need somebody to produce a book. If this person doesn't produce a book, I cannot complete my mission. That's in the agreement says, I have a mission and I have to do a lecture. But I don't have this book. I don't even know it exists. I don't even know it exists. I know that I need it to do my lecture, to do my research, but I don't know it exists because it belongs to somebody else, right? It's a different contract. So let's go back to the dealership. I have a car. I cannot drive my car until they get that window. And if there's a delay, then I have to find other form of transportation. Okay? Because I gotta wait for the window, I gotta wait for the tie rods, right? And that's gonna cost me, right? You're gonna see how this all connects. Other forms of in other words, I need to find another way to do it. I need another way to get around until my car is ready. So now think about that, right? You think about that. I am dependent on these pieces in order to drive my car. And this is life, right? I'm driving my car. If I don't get these things, I have to do other things. Same with agreement. I have a mission. I need a book. I need somebody's help. I need some new ideas. I need money. If that is not present, my mission is screwed. Okay. I just like to keep it as simple as possible, that it's not just about the agreement. Okay? It's not just I have an agreement. Because a lot of the time, it's people say, well, I have an agreement and I have a mission, right? My mission is to do X, Y, Z. But then to do the X, Y, Z, I need other pieces from other people, right? So how many times, so these are other people, these are other agreements. So let's say this is another agreement. And let's say this person is going to lecture, right? And he's going to lecture, he or she is going to lecture about alternative stuff. So I need that information in order to complete part of my mission. My mission maybe is to write a book. My mission is to help my kids. My mission is to teach. We don't know. It doesn't matter. This person here is supposed to write a book. Maybe it's supposed to write 10 books. And those 10 books, one of them makes a movie. And that movie inspires me here. It wakes me up. I'm awake, right? Think of a movie that really got you inspired. You inspired you with this movie. And the guy or the woman wrote 10 books, and they spent their whole life writing books, and they're struggling, and they don't have a lot of money, but they know they have to write the book. And you are waiting for that to finish your mission. You see the interdependency, right? Are you starting to see the interdependency? In order to make my mission, I need these things, right? Let's say I want to be a wrestler. Let's say one of my missions, I want to be a professional wrestler. Well, to get inspired, I need to see a wrestling show, right? Pro wrestling show. So let's say that for whatever reason, the pro wrestling show doesn't get made. Okay? So I'm supposed to see it when I'm 16 years old. It says you will see a pro wrestling match. Okay? I'm getting specific. That's in your agreement. Let's say that's in your agreement. When you are 16, you will see a that's in the program, right? That's not in your conscious memory. You will see a pro wrestling match, and people say something clicked, right? I saw this and something just clicked. I was inspired. I couldn't sleep. I knew that was my mission. Okay? So we're not aware of the exact details. We don't know that at 16 I'm supposed to do that. But at 16, if I do see that, something clicks, I get inspired, and it takes over my life for a certain period of time. I may or may not become a wrestler, but it may take part of my life. Or maybe I watch a kung fu movie. Or maybe I watch something else, right? So the detail, I don't want to get wrapped up in the detail, but understand this. So the clicking can be this relationship with this internal program, the digital program that's now in the DNA. It's in your DNA. This is in your DNA. And things click or they don't. You get inspired. What motivates you? That's probably connected to your program, to your contract. So let's say, we're going to argue that for some reason the producer was sued and they ran out of money, so there's no pro wrestling match. Okay, so we're in the negative now. No match. So at 16, no match. What happens? No clicking. You don't get inspired. You don't get inspired. What happens? You don't get inspired. You don't become a pro wrestler. Right? Maybe you're supposed to become a pro wrestler. But for whatever reason, this guy, he or she got hung up on something, or they were interfered with, and the pro wrestling match doesn't happen. So the inspiration is not there. But let's say, you watch a strip show. Okay, so the match is gone, but now you have this empty feeling, right? You have this empty. I need something to fill this emptiness because I didn't get what I'm supposed to get, even though I didn't know about it. So the empty feeling, I see a strip show, I go, wow, hey, I could do that. And you become a stripper. Right? So how did you become a stripper? Well, I saw a strip show, I was motivated, but maybe you were supposed to see something else. And you weren't inspired because these people, for whatever reason, didn't do their mission. He or she got to do their mission, he or she got to do their mission so I can do my mission. Right? So there's this interdependency. Everything's interrelated. So we have all these incarnation agreements, and we're all here, you know. So before we're born, right? Again, oops, A B C D C. Yeah, see, I'm doing DNA now. A B C D E F. I'm in the D. I'm already thinking DNA. So these are 5 people. These are 5 contracts. Okay, we don't know exactly what they're supposed to do, but this person could be somebody who's going to interfere. But before we come down, I'm gonna interfere. Right? I'm a helper. I'm a helper. I'm a helper. I'm a wild card. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I'm just a drone, just to do the basics. I'm just going to do the basics. So we all incarnate, right? And this is you. And you all incarnate as people. And you don't know, you don't remember anything, right? You don't remember any of this. But you know about inspiration. You know about clicks. In the sense that something just clicked. Or 2 people, 2 people just click because they click. Gee, they click, right? It's written in the stars. It's written in, a lot of times it says, the old times it says written in the stars. If we translate sort of that old language into a modern language or a genetic language, it's written in the genes. And a lot of this goes back to my work on the goddess DNA, which I will be talking about more. But this is one way of talking about it, and this is a new way of talking about it, right? Ancient. Genes, right? Genes, they trigger or they close, right? They go on, off. Can be good or bad, and that affects what you know, what you remember, who you are. So the idea is, right, if it's a DNA game, right? DNA is number 1. DNA is prime real estate. Anything that clogs DNA is bad, whatever it is, right? You got anything that can rewrite your DNA is not going to be good. If DNA is our spirit and we need our genes and we need to remember who we are, because if we forget who we are and it's blocked, we won't do our missions, right? So let's go now into, I'm going to break it down a little bit more. So, we talk about the mission. This is your Incarnation agreement. It's in your DNA, right? It's in your DNA. And it's also in your digital DNA, right? Now, we briefly discussed that. So it's in a higher dimension. There's a copy. So if for whatever reason you forget, you can download the copy, right? You can download. Now, to do that, it takes a little bit of work. It takes a little bit of training. Download. But those people who do the work and do the study and they wake up, they can go to the higher dimension, access their DNA, access their digital file, and they can download more stuff. So there's, we'll talk about, there's a basic agreement, and then there's, if you finish all that, there's, the more advanced stuff, right? This is the stuff everybody can do, but if you really understand the game, you want to get to here. You want to download, get to here, and get the new stuff, right? New stuff. So you have your mission, right? You have your mission in here. You have the kind of the conditions. So this will be your identity, right? Your family. What's my family? What's my identity? You'll have what's my career. Okay, you'll have this is your greater mission, and then down here you'll have contingency, because not everything goes right. Okay, not everything goes well. And then also in here you have your alternatives. You may change career. You may remarry, right? That could be down here. If you have a big awakening, that could be here, right? Second marriage, second career, spirit path, right? This is when the people become spiritual. Some people, they're very successful and wealthy, and then they just become spiritual because they've completed everything. They did it all. They finished everything. Everything's good. Now I'm just going to talk spiritual, talk faith, go to church, make people feel happy, work in charity, because they've done everything. Now, for some of us, you have a big mission, right? Some people think, well, my mission is to wake up people, which is a very difficult mission. It's because people are very obstinate, maybe, or they refuse to see. Okay? I think if you work in this field, you know that people refuse to see, and there's a lot of, naysayers and critics, right? Trolls, agents. There's a lot. You got a lot working against you, right? You got a lot of the scientists. They throw facts at you. Facts. These are all the facts. So it's a very difficult path. There are contingencies because a lot of people, you fall off the path. So what do you do when you fall off the path, right? You're off the path, you're depressed, you were fired or you quit for something. There's whatever. There's a scandal. Let's say there's a scandal. Right? You're off the path. You got a drug problem. You're off the path. So there's a contingency. We're running out of space already. So you're off the path, and there's always going to be a point where you're off the path. There's a contingency. Sometimes you make a mistake. You could have an addiction. That could be addiction, scandal. I'll rewrite that. Addict. There could be a scandal. You could maybe you just give up. You could give up. I can't take the pressure anymore. I'm just checking out. And there can be something, tragedy. Something happens, right? You lose your mother. Losing the mother causes the depression, causes you to go off the path, and you're off the path. And so there's a contingency. So some of the contingencies, you will get help. You will get, people say spiritual help. You'll get spirit guides helping you. You'll get a benefactor. Some people say, it was God. Certain people enter your life. Sometimes certain people enter your life and it's to help you out. Sometimes people enter your life and they cause a tragedy, right? They cause you to go into drugs. So that's good and bad, right? There's a lot of factors going here. So there's a contingency, and let's say you just gave up, you couldn't take the pressure, so some guy comes in, there's a phone call, and you guys, you feel better. And you go back to work. If the contingencies don't work out, and then there's some kind of tragedy. Right? Name your tragedy. So the contingency is going to be built into your agreement. And it's also built, so it's in your agreement, but it's also in the system, right? There's a system. There are people, there are people who monitor this stuff so that we all do what we're supposed to do. So the system might send you some help. You have a nice dream. You realize you made a mistake. Right? You broke up with your girlfriend, you want to divorce your husband, but maybe it's a mistake. Or maybe you're not doing your mission, and the contingency is, well, we got to get the divorce, right? And you get a good lawyer, and they get sometimes, right? It can be that. Sometimes, now let's get into the little finicky stuff. Let's say you're in a bad relationship. And who hasn't been in one of these? Let's say you're in a bad relationship and you got your agreement, you got your missions, you're not able to do anything. You're in a bad relationship and you refuse to divorce. So how, let's say the system says we're going to send somebody in. We'll send in an angel. Okay? We'll send in an angel. This person refuses to divorce. They're too gone. They're too weak-minded. They're brainwashed. They don't want to give up all their money. Everything. They don't want to look bad in front of their friends. So what are we going to do? Okay. So we could set up an affair. The affair could start a divorce, right? Or a tragedy. So there could be a tragedy. That's a risk. We set up an affair. If that doesn't work, we set up another affair. If that doesn't work, the spouse dies. Now the woman's grieving. But, right? And this can be, the spouse can do it they can do it willingly or they can do it unwillingly. So there's grieving. That's going to take time to grieve. But eventually that person will realize, I was in a bad relationship and it was better for me. But again, when we go to contingency, right? You see all this stuff? When there's a contingency, when you go to addiction, when you're involved in a scandal, when you've just given up and are depressed, when there's a tragedy, what's happening? And I want to go back to my car analogy. Okay, see how everything's going to get connected here? So there, the muffler is, let's say these are different people you need in your life. The muffler has an addiction. The window just lost its mother. This person is depressed. So I can't get the mechanic said, I can't fix your car. You got to wait. Let's say that's me. I got to wait for this person to get out of addiction, this person to get out of the scandal, this person, I got to find a new form of transportation. I got to make changes to my life. So a lot of people, they're in this situation where life just didn't go out as planned. Okay, I would say most people could say that, right? Life didn't go out as planned, right? Life didn't work out as planned. Why? Because there's an agreement and there's a lot of interference. Like addiction, tragedy, war, politics, health, etc. Right? Scandals are big now. Scandals are usually for richer, famous people, celebrities, important people. So life doesn't work out because the people you require their help, they didn't do what they're supposed to do. Remember that? Remember my A, B, C, D, E, F. We need each other. So if these guys all check out, I gotta find an alternative. And then it happens again, I gotta find an alternative. And I gotta find an alternative. And that's how you end up here. Things didn't go as planned. Now, that's fine. Everybody can say that. We can all count the gray hairs on our head. Because that's what happened. Things didn't go as planned. But if you are a spiritual person, and my assumption is you are, if you have spiritual goals, let's say you understand reincarnation, then you got to make sure that you do everything that you're supposed to do, right? Or you won't achieve that, right? It's not just the physical, right? That's why, spiritual people go the distance. Okay? Because they don't care how much it hurts. They don't care the cost. They don't care how little money or how little food they have. They're going to keep their attitude because they got to get to the finish line. They got to get to here. They want to attain that spiritual ascension, that spiritual knowledge. Right? And some of these people, and I'll give you an example, a very obvious, like in the UFO business. In the beginning, the UFO business was a tragedy. People lost their jobs, they lost their families, they lost their money, they lost their identity, and they were called crazy people, right? If you believed in UFOs, I'm going back 30, 40 years, your whole life is destroyed because they weren't supposed to exist. Now, some of these people, they're spiritual and they went the distance. And now today the politicians, the government, military, CIA are all confirming, right? So the only way you would last 30 years, 40 years is you had that spiritual the spiritual strength to go the distance, and that's because it's in your contract. You knew it. You knew, I'm going to keep the faith. Okay? And we lost a lot of people, but you keep the faith because it's in your DNA. And there's those people remember it, and that goes down to here. Spiritual goals. At the end of your journey, you will have attained the spiritual goals. So there's a lot. So life is difficult. The physical life is difficult. It is a challenge. There is a lot of interference, and there's a long list of interference. If you work in the alternative field, there's you can get into like psychic attacks. You can get into magic, cabal. Like, it gets pretty ugly pretty fast. So you're not just dealing, oh gee, I got diabetes, I got somebody trying to kill me. That's a problem. There's a tragedy. So imagine you got a tragedy, you got a health problem, and there's somebody trying to get rid of you. So that takes a lot of faith. But all of that is in your incarnation agreement. I mean, a simple, I think what's happened is, we tend to gloss over these things, but actually everything is in your agreement, and the agreement is in your DNA, right? It's in your DNA, and if you can't get it in your DNA, you can get it in your digital DNA, which is in a higher dimension, but you kind of have to learn. You have to learn a few things to get that. In any case, all of this is decided before you incarnate. You chose, we'll end it with that, you chose this life. A. B. This life is based on previous lives, i.e. karma. We're not talking karma today. There's a lot of stuff. We're going to be talking more about DNA. We're not talking about the karma. But you chose this life, and this life is based on previous life. Right? So whatever's in your life, it's there for a reason. And that's part of, that's part of your agreement. That's part of your living, trying to figure it out. Why is it in there? Is it something I can remove, or is it something I need to deal with? Is it something because of what I did? Is it something there because I have a certain proclivity, and that helps or blocks that proclivity, right? There's so many different distinctions that I don't know if I can generalize it. I can say that whatever that you chose this life, you agreed to it, you signed it, and it's also based on previous. So you may not have the best options, but those are the only options you can afford, right? I want to buy a car, and somebody wants to buy a BMW, but they can only afford a Toyota. And you come to, oh, why I didn't get a BMW? Well, you can only afford a Toyota, and you didn't get the all-wheel drive, right? So that comes down to here. It's based on I can only afford a Toyota, and there's nothing wrong with a Toyota. It's a great car. It's a beautiful vehicle. So what? The other guy has a BMW. This is what you have. Okay, maybe you see this is it. This is it. If you want something better, then do what you're supposed to do. And the next life you can get that BMW.